Hi, everyone. Welcome to the What to Do When You Feel Like You Don't Have a Voice masterclass. My name is Elissa Weinzimmer, if we haven't met yet. I'm so glad you're here. I'm watching everyone step into the webinar. Woo, we just went over 100 people on the line. That's exciting. Yay, amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time out of the middle of your day to be here with me live. And for those of you watching afterwards, thank you, thank you. Okay, so first of all, you guys, many of you, if you registered a couple days in advance, I will stop knocking my desk, sorry for that. You may have gotten the chance to send in a survey. So I wanna let you know, actually, first of all, can you guys, yeah, just like Stacy said, she said, all good here in chilly Florida. Oh, I'm sorry it's cold in Florida. It's not so warm in New York City either. Can you guys type in the chat box? Your name might already be there, but where you're from, where you're tuning in from. And I'll tell you right now, and I made a little list. Oh, I see Ireland already coming in on the line there, that we have people from 23 countries on the line here, as far as I know. Oh my gosh, look at this pour in. 6 continents. You are from 6 continents. I'll let you guess which one is not represented. Amazing. So, wow, hi you guys. Thank you so much for saying hello. I've never seen the chat box go this fast. That's amazing. Hi, Marcia. I'm in Brooklyn too. Yay. Okay. So I want to start first, before we dive into the content, by just stating my intention for why we're all gathering here today. And that is to help you understand, and actually I'm realizing, hold on, let me organize my screen so that I have this exactly where I want it to be. And just so you know, you guys too, my team is monitoring the chat box. I may not be able to, surprise, pay total attention to it at all times, considering I want to share things with you. So they will respond to you and I will look in there sometimes. So my intention for this masterclass is to help you understand why you may be in a situation where you feel like you don't have a voice, right? Where you feel like you're kind of in this antagonistic, my voice against me kind of energy, and why you feel like you might not be able to trust your voice. This is something I really relate to. I assume if you're taking the time to listen to this, it might be something you relate to as well. And I want you to know there is a way to change that you feel this way. So the things we're gonna cover today, I'll go through them in the order we're gonna go through them, which is we're gonna talk about the emotional origins of vocal challenges and how your whole life, including stress, including your health, including fitness, can really affect your voice. We're going to talk about how these emotional impacts can actually manifest as muscle issues and how muscle tension can actually be the thing that's causing you fatigue or strain issues. And we will release some of that. And I'm going to teach you a really gentle approach to how to do exercises so that you can actually address the muscle tension as you start to notice it. We'll actually focus today on a muscle called our sternocleidomastoid, if anyone's excited about SCM stuff today. A couple other things, we will do Q&A at the end. And also I am gonna raffle off a scholarship to my Release Your Voice class, which I will tell you more about today. So that's the agenda for the line. And of course, I'm also gonna share a little bit about who I am with you in just a moment. So I will just say before we dive into everything as well, that I only have 90 minutes with you today. And I'm so honored that you're taking 90 minutes out of your day to watch this or join me live. And I will give you as much information as I can today. Although the truth is actually something I was thinking about this morning is I've done a number of these webinars over the course of my decade-long teaching career. And I actually today I'm doing less cramming as much as I can in, and more really, and I'm gonna let my nervous system settle while I say this, really letting myself and you digest the most important concepts gently. So that's actually part of my intention today, is for us to really settle into what we're discussing in this moment, as opposed to try to get as much information as we can in our brains during these 90 minutes, okay? So I will give you as much experience as I can in the 90 minutes, but of course, if you have muscle issues with your voice, if you have muscle tension, if you have hoarseness, if you have fatigue, this is something that we can't necessarily fix, surprise, in 90 minutes. So I do have further training. There's this Release Your Voice course. It's 20 weeks long. It goes from next week until the end of June. And it's the most robust thing I've ever put together in my whole decade of teaching. And I will tell you all about it when we get later on at the end of the time. But one thing I do want to acknowledge for now, especially since I think a lot of you have probably just encountered me and my work, is that this is actually for many of us, including myself, as I started to understand how voices work and how to untangle tension, you may be coming to this call thinking for years even that there was nothing you could do about these issues with your voice. And I want you to know that there is. Let me give you an example of a story that I get all the time. And this story is kind of amalgamated from lots of different experiences that I've had with people coming to me. But basically, here's how something goes. So someone contacts me via email or whatever, and they say, hey, Elissa, I'm so glad I found your work. Maybe they saw a video on YouTube or they came across my website, and they say, I'm so glad I found you. Here's my story. I have been, or they usually say something like 7 years ago, I was working at a sales job where I was talking all day long. I was singing in a choir after my work days. It was really stressful at home. All sorts of things were going on. And I just noticed that my voice was really hoarse and rough, and I had a lot of fatigue. And so finally, I decided I should go to the ear, nose, and throat doctor. I went, I sat at the ear, nose, and throat doctor. They scoped my vocal cords. You guys know how that works. It either goes straight back in your mouth, or it's actually, if anyone's not had this experience, they can do a flexible scope that goes through your nose and down your throat. I'm sure there are people actually on the line right now being like, yes, I administer those. I know how that works. So I got my vocal cords scoped, and the clinician told me everything was fine. But I knew everything was not fine. I insisted everything was not fine. So they sent me to speech therapy. This is the person, and I'm not speaking in the first person right now, by the way. This is the person telling me their story. They say, I went to speech therapy, and I was in speech therapy for X number of weeks, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever my insurance would cover. But to be really honest, I didn't quite understand why we were doing the breathing and glottal onset exercises we were doing, and I didn't know how they would help me. And at the end, I didn't even know how to keep practicing. And so now it's been 7 years, is what this person says. And they say, I quit my choir. I changed my job so that I don't have to talk all day on the phone. And to be really honest, I avoid going into social situations pretty often because I don't like talking over loud music in a bar or in a restaurant. It's really stressful for me. So essentially, I've just given up on my voice. Does anyone relate to a story like that? I have a feeling there are probably, and actually I will glance at the chat box right now to say, yeah, Leah's like, that sounds like me so far. Yep, hand raised. Yeah, you guys. Oh, okay. So, okay. I was like, how long can I make it through the masterclass before I cry? You guys, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's really sad. And I really relate to it too. It's not too dissimilar from my own story, but I do find it really heartbreaking that this is happening so much on the planet. And honestly, I also feel honored that I'm sitting here in a position to say, I think I can help you. So I really, really want you to get the help you need. Like I said, we're gonna do as much deep work as we can in this time together, and then I'll tell you more about Release Your Voice class after we do our curriculum for the day. Okay, so let's dive in to story time. Let me just check in the chat box one more time and see. Yeah, okay, awesome, you guys. Do chime in if you have anything you want to share. And I'm gonna drink some water. Now, one thing I'll presence, it hasn't happened yet, I don't think. I think I was paying attention. I might cough while we are on the line together. In fact, I can feel it tickling in my throat. The reason I might cough, I'm just gonna do it. There it was, yes. I might cough because I've actually been coughing for over 2 months now. And if anyone knows anything about Chinese medicine or holistic practices, yeah, Joe Ellen's like, I might cough too. It took me until a month or so into my cough to realize that this was going on, but the lungs in our body, according to Chinese medicine, are actually the home of grief. And I will just sit here and be really honest right now and let myself settle into my body while I say this, that I have been experiencing a lot of grief in the last couple months around my voice. And it's part of the reason I chose this topic for today. So let me introduce myself fully to you. My name is Elissa Weinzimmer. I grew up in California. I live in Brooklyn, New York now. And I run a business called Voice Body Connection. I work with people on voice and presence. And when I say I work with people on voice and presence, I mean, this is having a voice on every level. This is physical, this is mental, this is emotional, this is spiritual. Some of you may actually know, and you actually said so in your surveys to me that I host a podcast called How to Speak Your Truth. So thank you for those that listen, and you can always tune in. So I come from a performing background. I did a lot of singing, musical theater growing up all the way into college. And a lot of you on the line, I know, are singers, are performers, are voice teachers, fellow voice teachers. Thank you for being here. And also a lot of you on the line are not teachers, business people, entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur too, obviously. So this is a really cool grouping of human beings with a voice. I think we sit here together as human beings with a voice. So I have a story around my voice that maybe if you have followed my story at all, you've heard me tell, which is about how I lost my voice when I was 21 years old. And actually, in preparation for today, yesterday I went back and I watched the masterclass from last year, because I do this annually as an intro to the Release Your Voice class. And I went back and it was so interesting. You guys know that feeling where you're watching yourself before, or you're seeing something that represents the you that came before? I was like, oh yeah, that is how I told my story last year. Totally. That's how I told my story. And it's been a year and a lot has happened and I have more to share. So if you haven't heard the story yet, here's how it goes. I was 21 years old and I lost my voice. I was a senior at USC, at the University of Southern California, Fight on Trojans. I was in an a cappella group. I was scream belting What a Feeling from Flashdance. That was my solo. I was drinking extra alcohol because I was trying to enjoy the end of college, if I'm being totally honest. I was getting over laryngitis, and I was also getting over mono because I'd gotten really sick the semester before. And I felt this feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to have fun right now. I had to rest all last semester. Let me like party and just go hard for the final semester of college. Well, my constitution is sensitive, and that didn't last very long. About a month later, we were on so point being, the semester started in January. By the first weekend of February, we were on a cappella retreat with my group. If you guys don't know a cappella, it's one of those groups where you like stand and you snap and it's only voices and there's no instruments, yeah? So we were on retreat and we were singing my song over and over and over, and I had a vocal hemorrhage. Now, that's actually language that I didn't have at the time. What happened was I woke up on Sunday morning, which was Super Bowl Sunday, February 4th, 2007, and I felt like I had shards of glass in my throat. I actually am having a little bit of the sensation, like as I'm saying it right now, I'm like, ooh, my throat. I felt like I had shards of glass in my throat, and it hurt to swallow, and it was really hard for me to even whisper or talk. And I was horrified, and I went to go see 2 ear, nose, and throat doctors over the course of the coming week. I got my vocal cords scoped. I wound up in speech therapy. Essentially, at the time, I was told that I'd suffered vocal trauma. We'll come back to this word trauma. But I was told that I'd suffered vocal trauma and that I needed to go on vocal rest for a month, which, by the way, one more sip of water before I say this, is not necessarily usually now 13 years later what most voice clinicians will recommend, but at the time that was the idea, is go on vocal rest for that period of time. So I did. I went on vocal rest for a month. That means I didn't talk. I literally had a little notepad and I walked around and I wrote things down. Something I did say, I have said as I've told this story before, is that that period of my life feels very empty and blank, which is actually a very classic thing for someone to say when they experienced trauma. So coming back to this word trauma, it's taken me, uncovering trauma is like peeling the layers of an onion, if you guys know what I mean, right? Like we get closer and closer to understanding it. And even though I have cognitively been aware that losing my voice was the biggest traumatic episode I've ever experienced in my life, in the last year, I've become kinesthetically and emotionally aware that losing my voice was the biggest trauma I've ever experienced in my life. And something I want to say, there's a couple of things I want to say about trauma. First of all, I want to read you something. This is a book called Waking the Tiger by Peter Levine. Peter Levine is the founder of something called somatic experiencing, which is a somatic psychological approach. Somatic means of the body, so using body for psychology. And I want to read you a definition of trauma. So for those opening up their copy of Waking the Tiger, this is on page 24. The official definition that psychologists and psychiatrists use to diagnose trauma is that it is caused by a stressful occurrence that is outside the range of usual human experience and that would be markedly distressing to almost anyone. This definition encompasses the following unusual experiences: serious threat to one's life or personal integrity, serious threat or harm to one's children, spouse, or other close relatives or friends, sudden destruction of one's home or community, seeing another person who is or has recently been seriously injured or killed as the result of an accident or physical violence. Now, part of the reason, and that's actually also, that is lifted from the DSM, for those of you that know about psychology, that's the Diagnostics Statistics Manual. So here's the thing. Trauma can come in many shapes and sizes. And I think a lot of times we feel that, you know, a car accident or experiencing a bombing is trauma, but stubbing your toe is also trauma if it's outside of the realm of your nervous system's usual experience. And something I didn't give myself permission to realize at the time was that losing my voice was so far outside of my normal experience that it was profoundly traumatizing to me. Profoundly. So I'll tell you what's changed in the past year around my story and my processing. So about the same time last year that I started teaching this Release Your Voice class in like January, February, I also started taking singing lessons. Started taking singing lessons with Stephanie Rooker, who is actually the resident sound healer and singing teacher in the Release Your Voice class. And Stephanie and I started really, part of the reason I felt safe to start taking singing lessons again after many years not singing, after my voice loss episode, because I really did shut down, is that I wasn't going to be studying technique so much as we were doing sound healing to free my voice. So as we were going through this process, I started writing a lot of songs, and like songs started kind of coming out of my pores. And then there was this moment a couple months ago where Stephanie and I decided we were going to do a journey, if you will, and revisit the history of my voice. And part of the reason I wanted to do this was because I was having these flashbacks, and I think it's pretty fair to call them flashbacks. I had remembered that when I was, let's say, 9 years old, and I was a kid on the playground at recess at elementary school in third grade, probably, that I had spent my recesses doing this. I would walk from my third grade classroom all the way across the playground, all the way across the field, all the way to the back corner where there was this like little bench / like wooded area. And I would sit there with my friend Katie and we would write songs. That's how I spent my recess. And we wrote these really simple kind of spiritual songs, and they started coming back to me a little bit. And I was like, huh, okay. So that was definitely like, I guess I'm a songwriter. I guess I really am a songwriter. And then I started having, so as I was doing the journey with Stephanie, it was like memory upon memory started dropping in. Next, I remembered being, and these are maybe, you know, constructed memories that aren't perfect, but I remembered being in my 5th grade classroom during music class with my teacher, who I really admired. And I remembered being called on to demonstrate something that we were doing. And what I remember with all of these is, and see if you guys, as I'm telling my story, if you can think of any of these experiences for yourself, there's a full body sensation that I can go back to when I thought about how I needed to perform for the teacher, I needed to please the teacher, and I also needed to not piss off all my fellow students by being too good, right? By being too much of a goody two-shoes. So I remembered that. And then I remembered being in singing lessons with my first solo voice teacher. I started singing lessons when I was 12. And I remembered this overall feeling of like something needed to be shaped or fixed or shifted with my voice. And I had to sing the songs she was choosing, not the ones I wanted to do, because there was something that I needed to learn, and some way I needed to be crafted and shaped. And then I remembered being in college with my singing teacher in college and having posture issues and having my ponytail pulled back on in order to bring me back into proper alignment, which I can tell you right now is not my technique as a teacher. And then I remembered bunches of things that happened with my a cappella group leading up to that weekend when I lost my voice, moments where I felt like I had to push, where I felt like I had to prove myself, where I felt like I didn't sound right, all sorts of things. And here's what I came to realize. Here's the tumbling realization. I did not suddenly out of nowhere lose my voice on February 4th, 2007. I'm trying not to cry, but it's okay to cry. There were a lot of micro traumas that happened up to that moment. And I share that with you because if you're having issues with your voice, I bet it's similar for you. When we want to move through trauma, when we want to move through a difficult experience, we want to assess it. We want to assess our ability to recuperate ourselves in a couple ways. One, was it an immediate violent thing that just occurred and now my life is totally different, like a car accident? I pray that no one has that experience. Or were these micro traumas that led up to the event present? And then also, after the trauma happens, do you get the care and the help that you need? Because how we recuperate is so very related to whether we actually get not only physical support, which I got a fair amount of. I got speech therapy for 12 weeks, right? Even though I too had trouble contextualizing it. But do we get the ability to contextualize it, to cognitively understand what we're doing so that we can mentally process, so that we can psychologically process, so that we can emotionally process? The reason I'm sitting in front of you 13 years later, finally able to talk about my story in this way, is because I did not get that support back then, not to the degree I needed it. It was not available to me. I didn't know where to find it. I didn't know I needed it. And so it's taken me this long to be able to emotionally process my story. I'm looking at the chat box really quickly. Why don't you guys chat to me if you want to? Thank you so much for sharing your story. I've been ugly crying for the last 10 minutes. Dorian, thank you. I'll ugly cry when we're all done here. But yeah, I'm so honored and grateful to just show up fully as I am in this story and share it with you, because I think the more that I settle into this, the more that I realize there are a lot of us who have stories like this. And there is a lot of vocal trauma happening on our planet right now. And it's really important that we address it. So I'm going to look back at my notes because I'm so deep in my experience right now. So I think we live in a society right now that is creating a binary around our voices. Either they have to be perfect and loud enough and sound like we think they should sound, or we should shut up. And we get silenced, and that causes us a lot of trauma. Stacy says, yes, with 4 exclamation points. Yeah. So this work that you're stepping into to do on your voice right now today, and the quality of energy with which we're going into this work is so important. And when you heal yourself, oh, you guys, I talk about this on the podcast all the time. When you heal yourself, then we can start to heal the people around us. Okay. One practical thing I'm going to say that I will come back to is that you may remember in my story, I told you that I found an ENT and then I went to speech therapy. Not all ear, nose, and throat doctors or speech therapists are created equal. I'm sure everyone is doing the very best they can, but it's a big field and not all of them have studied voice. So you want to find, if you relate to this story and if you need to go see a clinician, and I'm going to be the first person to recommend it if you do. So here's actually the signs you want to pay attention to. If you've been hoarse or fatigued for longer than 2 weeks, if it's been lasting for a long time, or if it's sudden, then you should go see a clinician. But please find a laryngologist or a speech therapist who specializes, that's the word I wanted, in voice. And if you are having trouble finding that, get in touch with me. Guess what I'm doing right now? I'm putting together a database of people all around the world, the clinicians who specialize in voice, so that we can actually do this process more effectively. And by the way, for those SLPs and laryngologists on the line who do specialize in voice, will you please email me, get in touch with my team. We'll put you in the pipeline to put you on that database. More on that in the future. Okay. I'm just going to look at a couple things. Yeah, I'm crying to be perfect, says Stacy. Yeah. I didn't realize my emotions were so close to the surface about vocal trauma that has occurred to me over the years. Thank you, Tamsin. Thank you. You guys keep sharing your stories in the chat box. I'm going to get into how we can address this. Okay. How am I doing on time? Not so bad. So here is a list of things that I think happen when we feel like we don't have a voice. And add things in the chat box if you have more. I think we shut down. I think we don't express ourselves. I think we change our habits in terms of relationships, work, and social life. I think we become depressed and dull. It's certainly possible. And here's the huge one, and it gives me chills to say it. I think we feel like we've lost our identity. Now, how do our muscles respond? How does our body, how do the tissues of our body respond when we have these feelings? People are saying yes, yes, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so think to a moment. Now you've heard my story. I'm going to take you into your story. I want you to think for a moment about when you were having an issue with your voice. It might be very recent. And I want you to remind yourself all the thoughts that were going through your head. For a couple minutes right now, you have my permission to go into monkey mind loops, okay? So remind yourself what your voice felt like, what you were thinking about, what happened that you knew there was a voice issue. Ask yourself what else was going on in your life at that time. One thing I will say, by the way, actually, this is something I forgot to say about my story, and I think it's relevant, is because I lost my voice right when I was graduating from college and going out into the real world, I thought that all of the intense traumatic feelings I was having were related to that. It took me a long time to realize, oh, like I lost my voice. That's the reason I'm upset and acting out in different ways. So think to yourself about a stressful time that's happened with your voice. And as you remember what you felt about your voice and the thoughts that you were having, I want you to take your hands and put them on your neck. Just around your neck like this. And just spend a moment longer in your stressful thoughts. I promise I'll pull you out of this in a moment. Notice what your muscles and what your neck wants to do when you're thinking about all the problems with your voice. Mine wants to contract. It wants to condense. It wants to shorten. Yeah. Anyone else feeling the same? Like, I want to go into the fetal position. Yeah. Okay, here's the thing. Yeah, protective. Yeah. So, So the thing is, your body going into that condensation is actually an adaptive response. It's actually really useful. Here's something that is probably really important for us to acknowledge about our necks and our voices, is that this area is the most exposed place in our body. It is the place where if someone wanted to do harm to you, they could do so most quickly, right? So of course, it's going to have the tendency to want to contract and protect and tighten and shield itself, right? That makes total sense. That's actually adaptive and useful. Thank you, nervous system. Thank you, body. But if we want our voice to become free and open and expansive, if we want space, if we want energy, if we want movement and freedom, and just go ahead and move your head around with those words, then we need to let our voice know that it's safe. We need to know that we're safe. And very often the reason trauma gets imprinted and stuck in the body is because we don't come out of it. We don't let ourselves know that we're safe again. And so then we just stay stuck in this pattern, and it gets tighter and tighter because it thinks it's protecting us, and we never unwind. Okay. So here's the thing that I would put on a pillow. Needlepoint moment, you guys. Needlepoint this on a pillow. I'm making you wait by taking a sip of water. It is how we attend to things, how we pay attention makes all the difference in the world. So you went into that monkey mind loop around your voice right now, right? I hope you stopped. I forgot to tell you to stop. So I hope you stopped. But if you think back to all of those thoughts, can you see how those thoughts were pitting you against your voice? Like, my voice is the enemy and now it needs to be fixed. and how you were dissociating. That word is sometimes said two different ways: dissociate or disassociate from your voice. You were making it something separate from you. Yeah. How we attend to things, how we pay attention makes all the difference in the world. If you are disassociating from your voice, then you are going to cause dis-ease and disease. I'll say that again. This is the pathway. When we dissociate, it causes dis-ease and disease. We have to reassociate, we have to reacquaint ourselves, we have to pay attention in a different way to our voice. Not in a way where we're like, voice, you suck, and it's unconscious, and we're like fighting it, but where we are attending with love to our voice. Now, I was thinking through this morning. Yes, 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 yes. I'm seeing so many yeses and wows in the chat box. Thanks, guys. So I speak French, not perfectly fluently, but I do. And I know that the word in French, attendre, attend, is to wait. It means to wait, or you can think of it as like to rest with. I went back and I actually looked up even further etymology in Latin of the word attend or attention, and it is to stretch to. Isn't that interesting? Tendir means to stretch to. So put your hands back on your throat now, back on your neck, gently, with love. And wherever your attention has been, bring it into your neck and your throat and your shoulders and your jaw, all these areas. Let your attention stretch to and land in this area. The quality of our attention makes all the difference in the world. When we just don't go to a place of noticing this part of our body, attending, waiting with, resting with this part of our body without needing to fix it or change it. Can you feel? I mean, I certainly, the vibration of my body just changed. So instead of having this relationship with our voice where we're like a mean parent going, you should behave, how dare you, I'm so annoyed with you. How about we just like scoop it up in a loving embrace and we're kind and loving to our voice. I'm actually releasing a podcast episode tomorrow with my friend Lotus Sky. This whole month of the podcast has been all related to these topics as well. And we talk about this a lot, and this idea that's where I actually found myself. I listened back and I was like, oh, yeah, dissociation leads to dis-ease and disease. We have to reassociate. Okay, so let's focus today on reassociating. Oh, Amanda, you said like tendu and ballet. Yeah, attend, tendu and ballet, same root. That's right. Tendu and ballet, I won't stand up and demonstrate it, but it's you point your foot and extend it and then you bring it back in. Yeah, nice. Yeah. Oh, okay, everyone, if you can put your feet flat on the ground for a moment where you are, can we all just, and maybe let's actually do this for a moment because it'll tie in the future. Put one hand on your heart and one hand on your head. And tune into that space in between where our hands were on our neck before, and just let all of this land in your heart and in your mind. It's big stuff. It's really big stuff. Okay. Okay. You guys are asking the name of my podcast, How to Speak Your Truth. It's on the website too. Okay. All right. We're going to reassociate today with our sternocleidomastoid muscle. Okay. So let me show you what your sternocleidomastoid muscle looks like. Sharing screen, showing you picture. Here we go. Okay, so you're looking at actually a bunch of muscles on the front of your throat. This, my friends, is what's going on in there. Oh my goodness. So if we look up here, you guys can see my cursor moving around, right? If you look up here, you can see the root of the tongue muscles. There's one of my coughs. This right here is the hyoid bone. It is the only, fun fact, floating bone in the body. It's the only suspended, unconnected to other bones bone. I hope that made sense. It's just hanging out there, suspended in between muscles. The larynx is down below it. There's a set of muscles, it's actually a set of 4 muscles, 4 on each side, called the strap muscles, that are kind of strap-like around the larynx. So one goes from the hyoid bone to the thyroid cartilage, one goes from the thyroid cartilage down to the sternum, one goes from the hyoid bone down to the shoulder, and then we're not seeing the one that goes all the way from the hyoid bone down to the sternum. You can also see some trapezius here coming over. That's your big back muscle and shoulder muscle, which also connects to the front of the collarbone, the clavicle. And then we're going to focus today, pardon me, today on the sternocleidomastoid, which goes from the mastoid process behind the ear down through the neck. It bifurcates, it separates into 2. One part of it connects to the collarbone and another part connects to the sternum, okay? You guys are probably somewhat familiar with this muscle because you can see it relatively externally. I think it's a good one to start working with, yeah? Okay, so let's find our sternocleidomastoid on ourselves. Okay, yay, and I'm seeing some things in the chat box that we love anatomy. I love anatomy too, you guys. I'm so glad you love anatomy too. Yay. Okay, so let's play with our muscles, okay? So here's something to understand about muscles. Muscles only do 2 things. They contract and they release. They contract and they release. They don't actually stretch. The muscle itself does not stretch. If you take the 2 bones to which it is connected and move them away from each other, it will stretch the muscle. But a muscle itself does not go, the fibers don't go, oh, now I think I'll stretch myself. That's not what they do, yeah? They only contract and release. So let's find our sternocleidomastoid. Bring one hand gently to your mastoid process, which is that big bone behind your ear. Bring your other hand, I'm gonna lay it on top of my voice necklace, to one thumb to your sternum and the other fingers to your collarbone. Your sternum is that it's that bony place right in the center of your chest, okay? So your sternocleidomastoid must be between these 2 hands where you have your hands resting. Okay, so let's start by contracting the sternocleidomastoid. And if you want to find that line, it might just be helpful to draw it on yourself, like just drag your fingers across it for a moment too so you can feel this. Good. So first I want you to contract along this line. Move the 2 bones closer to each other, contract the muscle. Cool. Okay, now here, you can sing something if you're a singer, or you can count out loud up to 10. Notice how your voice feels and sounds when you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, good. Now, I want you to do the opposite. And do that one more time if you need to, if you want to really feel it. Now do the opposite, which is lengthen your 2 hands away from each other, release the muscle. Don't worry too much yet about stretching, but just release. Take a breath here, let the muscle unwind to the best of its ability. And now count out loud up to 10 here and see how your voice feels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Different? I'll take one hand away to click over to the chat box. Yeah. You guys feel the difference? What kind of difference do you feel? Tell me in the chat box. Yeah. Okay, I'm not seeing answers yet, but maybe your hands are on you. Not as raspy, more free, much more resonant. Okay, woo, more open. Wow, okay, great, freedom, more of a buzz. Yes. So this is what that protective thing around your voice is going to be doing when all of those muscles, you saw so many muscles there in the front of your neck, when they have space, your voice is going to feel freer, brighter, smoother. I'm reading your words, more resonant. Okay, let's do a little bit more. Put your hands back where they were. And now we'll actually do the stretching thing. So what I want you to do, and I'm not going to teach you a specific exercise today because this is, I'm sharing with you the edge of my own personal explorations. So I want you to lengthen along the muscle in the way that your sternocleidomastoid is letting you know it wants to do. And then from there, I want you to move around a little bit in a way that feels good. So you can rotate your head around, you can change relationship. So we're not doing, I'm not giving you a prescriptive stretch for your sternocleidomastoid right now. We're listening to the muscle. We're tuning into where we think there might be stuck, stickiness, rigidity, adhesions. It's a technical term for it. And we are moving in a way that feels good. So just rock around a little bit more, rock and roll, move in a way that feels good to you. Finding length, allowing release, maybe sighing out a breath. And then from here, bring yourself back to center. We'll actually let that go. And now count out loud up to 10. How do you feel? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have a feeling you'd be upset with me if I didn't let you do the other side. So let's do the other side. Yeah. Oop, this side's tighter for me. Hello. Yep. Yeah, definitely feel a difference in the two sides. I'm looking at the chat box while I'm doing this, you guys. Yeah, had no idea how much tension I was holding there. Thank you for saying that, Randy. Yeah, at first the muscles were sore, then they released my tension. Yeah, good. Left side is tight. Are you guys doing the other side now? I assume you are. Good. And also, I'm going to talk again for a little bit, so you guys can keep doing exercises like this while I talk, but just go ahead and do a little bit more rocking and rolling on the other side. Now I feel like I need a massage. Nahama, we're doing one right now. Good. Yeah. Okay, good. Oh, Michelle, thank you for saying this. I want to make 100% sure I'm feeling it in the right places. Don't worry about being perfect. Trust your body. Move in a way that feels good for you. Trust me on that right now for a second. And then I'll say more about that. Yeah, it's a big muscle, Marcia, it is. Yeah, okay. All right. So now let that go. One more time, count out loud up to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Can you guys hear the difference in my voice right now? Because I can feel it. It feels, even though I warmed up before we started this call, like obviously I would do that, it feels so much freer and like there's more space now. Yeah. Yeah. So you guys can go on YouTube. You can search the Voice Body Connection, Elissa Weinzimmer YouTube channel. You can see me teach you all sorts of step 1, step 2, step 3 style exercises, and I will do that in Release Your Voice class as well. But I wanted to share this with you today because following intuitively and gently and lovingly the intuitions, the signals that your own muscles are giving you is actually the most effective thing, period. It's the most effective thing. And here's our thesis statement from all of this. We cannot release tension with more tension. Do you remember, wasn't it Einstein who said you cannot solve a problem at the level at which it was created? Can't do that. You cannot traumatize your muscles into releasing. The trauma caused them to freeze in the first place. It is gentle, soft opening and loving attention that is going to allow us to release. Yeah. Yeah. So can you see how when we go into this unconscious mode of servitude, like my muscles and my voice should be serving me, of dissociation, of antagonism, of being the mean parent, can you see how that affects everything? And by the way, here's the part about our health and our fitness and our diets and all of that stuff. We do this in so many areas of our life, right? Our society, I'm talking about like the predominant society on this planet, likes a pill and a 10-minute regimen to get better. That is what we think we should need. We think that there's a way to fix and cure things. There is a way to address things and get better and come towards center and health and healing, but it is not through and if this is controversial, then hop off the line by all means, but it is not through a pill or a 10-minute regimen. It's just not. A 10-minute regimen that you repeat by rote every day, that you don't understand why you're doing it, and you do it because you are upset with yourself and you need to be fixed. Yes? So this is just really important for us to realize. When we approach our tissues, the language that the tissues of our body, that the cells of our body speak is, oh, now I'm getting so radical, you guys. It's love. The language they speak is love. They vibrate, and we want to vibrate with them to heal them. Whoa, I didn't know I was going to get that radical. What do you guys think? Yes, get radical. Yes. Amazing. Okay, well, good. I'm glad you guys are in for the radical, because we're also going to have a dance party today. Okay, good, good, good. Go there. Could not agree more. Yay. So I mentioned to you before, I'll tell you a little bit about the Release Your Voice class. I mentioned to you before that that class is the most robust thing I've ever taught in my entire decade of teaching. And that's because it's a 20-week long course. When I started putting it together last year, I was like, okay, what do we need to know and what do we need to address if we're going to repattern our voices and muscle tension and the trauma and contraction that our voices have experienced? Yeah, it takes some time. So let me take you through how that class works. Please, I would love it if you keep moving and trusting your body and doing things that would feel good for you and making sound while I do this. I will take you through how Release Your Voice works. Okay, so let's hop on over to the page. So here we are. This is the Release Your Voice class. It is an online course to help you reduce muscle tension and overcome vocal fatigue. That's me smiling with my computer. And there's information about the masterclass that you're literally watching right now. So if you believe that you are someone for whom muscle tension is blocking your voice, then that's what we're addressing in this class. There's me. There's Ernie. Ernie, do you want to meet everyone in real life right now? He like looked up a little bit. Ernie, come meet everyone. Ernie will make guest appearances in the class sometimes. Right, Ernie? Won't you? There he is. He's so cute. Okay, so we'll come back to the success stories. You can, I hope you guys are chatting about my dog. I can't see it right now, but that's great. So let me tell you, we'll come back to the success stories, but let me tell you how this works. I want you to think of Release Your Voice as like a supercharged extra bonus semester-long course. I have taught courses in universities a lot in my life, and I have never, ever in my whole life taught a 20-week course in a university. That's like almost 2 semesters. So we're going to really develop a comprehensive understanding of what's going on with your voice. Just like we did with the sternocleidomastoid today, we'll go into basically all of the different muscle groups, as well as posture, etc. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how this works. We start class a week from today on Wednesday the 29th at this time. Surprise, that's why we're doing this now. And we meet on Zoom, but it's not like this, the webinar where you tune in and you can't be seen or heard. In class, we actually, it's like really cute Brady Bunch style. We can all interact. Wednesdays from 12 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know a lot of you are in places on the planet where that's like the middle of the night for you, because like I said, we have people from 6 continents here right now, which is so cool. But that is the time of day where I'm the best teacher, because I always get this question, why noon, Elissa? Why that time? I'm the best teacher at noon, and most of the people on the planet can get here at that time. And if you can't, you can totally watch recordings, which is what so many of you are doing right now. On the 3rd Friday of every month, we also have a special feedback session with me or one of the guest teachers. I'll tell you about the guest teachers. And bonus, since last year, I've started teaching weekday voice-body connection warm-ups. They're 20 minutes long on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings, and Tuesday afternoons. And you can come to warm-ups. So you can like do all sorts of cool things with me basically every day. Okay, so class is recorded if you can't attend on Wednesdays. We meet on Zoom. Yes, there will be some homework, but I call it home play because it's fun and it's useful and it is not busy work. Okay, what you're gonna learn. So here are the 4 sections of class. In the energy section of class, we address how to have a strong power source for your voice. So that is posture, that is breathing, that is like sometimes I use the metaphor that this is like turning on the hose. If your voice is a garden hose, it's turning on the hose. Then we go into the movement portion of class, which is the largest portion of class, where we make sure that all of the muscles that affect our voice are moving in healthy, useful ways. So we will go into the neck, muscles in the chest, the jaw, the tongue, the larynx. The tongue is a huge one. We will use vibration. Some of you have known me since the days of vibrant voice technique. I will teach you how to use a vibrator for your voice as well. I know that sounds crazy, and I really mean it. Here's a vibrator. We will get freedom. So this is like, if we're going into the hose metaphor, this is like we're untangling the hose so the water can actually flow through. Then we go into space. Look at this cool little graphic of the vocal tract. How you can create more space through your vocal tract, which is the tube between your vocal cords and your mouth, that allows you to vibrate with more freedom and richness of tone. And also how to articulate without clamping down on your voice as well. So we will go into how to make more space for your voice. And then finally, we'll apply it to real life situations. So giving a speech, singing, health and diet, fitness, etc. Okay? There's this really cute little table here that tells you literally the whole curriculum of the class, and I won't go through the whole thing, but you will get this link / you can literally go to it right now. It's voicebodyconnection.com/release your voice. So here's the whole curriculum. Pardon me. And here's who I want you to meet, the guest instructors. Melanie Tapson is our resident speech language pathologist. She is a joy. She is so wise. It is amazing to work with Melanie. Dr. Reena Gupta is our resident laryngologist. We are so lucky to have her expertise. She is literally one of the leading laryngologists, I think, in the world. She is so knowledgeable when it comes to the voice and vocal health issues and voice surgery and etc. So she's the resident laryngologist. Stephanie, who I told you about, who I do Voodoo Vision Quest sound healings with, is our resident sound healer and singing teacher. Claudia Friedlander is our voice and fitness expert. She literally has a PhD in singing and also how to apply it to your fitness routine. It's amazing. And she's the author of the book called Complete Vocal Fitness, The Singer's Guide to Physical Training, Anatomy, and Biomechanics. Claudia, I'm so excited that you finished that book. I was like with her through the whole process. And then David Harris and Laurel Irene are voice researchers and the founders of Voice Science Works. And they're actually going to teach you about how to understand your voice using, pardon me, using technical tools. It's so fun. They're absolute experts in resonance and pitch and spectrograms, etc. We also have Dr. Holly Lucille, who's our guest naturopath, who's going to talk about acid reflux and gut health. So you'll learn about all of that, and I'll share my story about all of that with you as well during the class. The investment for the course is one payment of $1,399 or 5 payments of $299. And here's the exciting thing, because you're here right now, there's an early bird discount until midnight tomorrow night, East Coast time, 11:59 p.m., which is that you get $100 off the pay in full or $50 off the payment plan. See this cool button? This is where you apply. Now, if you are thinking about, it is a big investment. I totally get that, you guys. This is like skin in the game type of investment. I want you to think about how much you could spend going to the wrong ENT, the wrong SLP, how much time and energy you're spending not going to the things you want to be participating in, etc. This really truly is an important investment of your time. Plus, I do also offer something since last year that I think I feel so in integrity doing. As you guys know, my story has now gone on for 13 years. I'm not free. Like, I'm literally, coughing and dealing with vocal issues right now. I have to keep doing these practices myself to stay in good vocal shape. So once you sign up for Release Your Voice class once, you get to repeat it in future years for free. I will say that again because it's so useful. Once you sign up once, you get to do it again. There's actually a whole group of the 2019 cohort that's already signed up to repeat it again next year. If you guys are those people, I'm so excited to see you again and do class with you again. So yay. And I don't know for how many decades I'll be teaching this class, but as long as I keep teaching it, you get to keep taking it. There are scholarships for those who truly can't afford the investment. 2 kinds of scholarships. There's an economic scale scholarship, which is a very low investment for people living outside of a westernized country with a different scale of economy. And then there's also half tuition scholarships for those of us in westernized countries, okay? So there's information here. Plus, in just a moment, yes, it's true, one of the lucky 186 of you currently on the line are gonna get a scholarship to the class. We will open up the line for that in just a moment. Now, important disclaimer, if you wanna do further training with me, I am an educator, I am not a clinician. As you can tell, I partner with a lot of clinicians, and I'm creating a literal network to send you to the right person near you. But I want you to just be clear that this is an educational course and it is not diagnostic, and I'm not your doctor. I think you know this, but I gotta say it. Okay, let me just read one of these student experiences, because it's always so much better to hear it from someone else rather than just from me. So here's from Angela. She says, I've always been a singer, a soprano, but when I came into Release Your Voice class, I was a couple years into some severe vocal issues. Over the course of time, the pitch of my voice had dropped significantly. I'm gonna do Angela justice by actually taking a sip of water again. The pitch of her voice had dropped significantly, and I couldn't really hold notes without cracking. It was really frustrating. Singing used to come so easily to me, so it sucked to go from being able to do something super proficiently and then suddenly be at like -100. I went to get scoped at the laryngologist, and the doctor said that my vocal cords weren't moving correctly, but they looked fine. No one explained to me what the problem was or how to fix it. I did a bunch of weekly speech therapy, but I just wasn't getting better. And it was months before one of my speech therapists even mentioned the words muscle tension dysphonia to me. Did I not say this yet? How did I get through a whole hour without saying this to you guys? Muscle tension dysphonia is the fancy clinical term for muscle tension affecting your voice. So I had the same experience as Angela, where I was like, when years later someone ever said those words to me, I was like, oh, okay. So Angela says, with that new information, I started researching and I found Elissa's videos on YouTube. I decided to join the Release Your Voice class because I felt like I'd discovered the only person out there that was even addressing this issue. I'm not the only one, but I'm really glad you found me, Angela. And I'm trying to help you connect to all the other people. Release Your Voice has turned out to be great. There are so many exercises that have been changing things for me. And particularly, it makes a huge difference to do tension release work on my neck and practice taking easier inhalations. That's a big thing we work on in class. Now I can sing with the hymns in church on Sundays about 90% of the time, and much of my range is coming back. I even sang a song around the high C or D area the other day. I'm so grateful. Angela, thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you, thank you. And pardon me. For those of you that don't identify as singers, and I know there are plenty of you on the line, please know that you can read other stories on this page, like Mike is not a singer. Mike has a great story about sounding stronger after he just went through the rigmarole total ringer with a bunch of specialists and speech pathologists. So if you're ready, again, there's a cute little apply here button, and there are FAQs if you have questions, but you can also ask me questions because we're almost to the Q&A period. Okay. Yay. Okay, I'm looking at the chat box. Good. Okay. So let's do this, my friends. If you want to be considered for a scholarship to Release Your Voice, then please type your full name and your email address into the chat box right now. Please type your whole name and your email address into the chat box right now. And Sherry, who is standing by on the line, yay, look at all those names and email addresses come in, thank you. Sherry is going to put them into a randomizer, and we are going to, at the very end of the call, choose the lucky recipient of the scholarship. Amazing. Okay. And in order to give Sherry time to process that, and in order for us to process everything we've been learning, what we're going to do is a dance break. I love a good dance break. I woke up yesterday morning, you guys, singing this song in my head. Don't ask why, don't ask how, just accept it. Hand on heart, hand on head. Let's just have a little round of dancing.
And if you want it, come and get it, crying out loud. The love that I was giving you never end. Let go of your heart, let go of your head, and fade. Let go of your heart, let go of your head, and fade. Babylon, Babylon.
All right.
Babylon.
You want to be a dance break? All right, all right. Yay, very good, everybody. Thanks for having a dance break with me. You should do dance breaks every day. I didn't say should, I don't believe in that word, but dance breaks are so fun. They help us feel like we can incorporate and integrate things, and they're useful. Yay, that felt wonderful. Yay, yes, Gloria, the whole thing will be replayed. I'm glad you're here. I know you got here late. I'm sending you the recording of this. Okay, everyone. It's time for Q&A. So exciting. I want to hear your questions. So, little bit of housekeeping for those actually on the line. There is this cute little Q&A box on Zoom webinar thing, but it is really confusing for us to use as administrators. I don't know why. So will you please use the chat box instead? Just like Susie just said, drop your questions in the chat. Here are some questions that I'll just give you some categories that may trigger a question for you. Do you have a question about anatomy and muscle release? Do you have a question about emotions and trauma? Do you have a question about your overall health in your voice? Do you have a question about exercises and how to do them? And do you have any questions about Release Your Voice class? Okay, and the way we're gonna do this is Susie is going to be scrolling through and looking at your questions, and then she's gonna unmute herself and tell me the question so I know which one we're answering. She's in charge. Susie, you're in charge now. Are you ready for it? Thank you for being my number 2. Okay, so what's first? Okay. Susie, are you able to unmute?
So we had a question earlier about stuttering, about will this course help with stuttering?
Ooh, good question. So stuttering is an articulation issue. Stuttering is an issue, it's an articulation and a neurological issue. I'm not an expert in stuttering, to be honest. So there actually probably are people on the line here who are maybe even more experts at stuttering than me. If there's an SLP on the line who wants to also answer that, you can. So I'll say a little bit of a larger picture question, or answer to the question, which is awareness and attention to this area of the body is probably going to help in any way. But allowing ourselves to work on, let me rephrase that, working on muscles is different than working on other tissues of the body. Now, I'm actually almost fully certified in something called body-mind centering, which is a somatic practice that we do look at different tissues of the body. So we look at the nervous system, we look at the organs, how to work with the organs, how to work with the nervous system, how to work with the endocrine system, how to work with the fluids of the body. So this class is specifically geared mostly towards muscle tension release, but I do actually have a lot of students who come into the course who have spasmodic dysphonia. Spasmodic dysphonia is a neurological issue where the vocal cords essentially, they like don't come together regularly, they blip occasionally. And what I have found with any neurological issue in the body, especially around here, is that if there is something malfunctioning neurologically, then the muscle tension follows. Because again, that thing that we felt before, that like condensing and contracting and wanting to protect thing happens. And so there's basically, in my experience, almost always an accompanying muscle tension issue along with another vocal issue. So I find that addressing the muscle tension issue is really, really helpful, even though it might not be a cure for a neurological issue like spasmodic dysphonia, pardon me, spasmodic dysphonia or stuttering. I hope that makes sense. And Susie, maybe you were monitoring the chat box to see if there were any other SLPs talking about stuttering.
Moving on to something else on muscle tension, we had a question about singing. The question comes from Mark, who says, I find myself able to sing with much less tension when I can hear myself. Any suggestions on how to develop a better sense of feel without audible feedback?
Ooh, yeah, Mark, that's a great question. Okay, so Mark, maybe type in the chat box and tell me just a little bit more about how you can hear yourself. Do you mean like when you have, like, are you performing and you have like a monitor, they're called, which is a speaker back at you? Or do you mean like when you cup your ear like this, or everything? Because here's what I'll say is that the experience of hearing ourselves is actually a kinesthetic experience. But yeah, Mark says, when I have a room with excellent acoustics, or yes, a great monitor, ear cupping. Yeah. So hearing ourselves is a kinesthetic experience. So you guys know I'm going to go on tangents right now, but you know how we all say we hate the sound of our own voice? Like we hear someone record us and we listen back to it and we're like, oh, that's what I sound like. I sound awful. The reason that happens is because when you hear yourself back through something recorded, you're hearing yourself the same way everyone else hears you. In other words, you're hearing your sound bounce off the wall and back towards your eardrum. However, when you're actually making the sound in your own body, you're primarily hearing yourself through bone conduction, through the actual kinesthetic vibration that is staying inside your own bone conduction. So your own experience of hearing yourself when you make sound is actually more robust and richer than the way anyone else hears you. Now, what you're asking, Mark, is like when you're performing or when you're making sound in a room where you can both feel the bone conduction and you can also feel the sound, you can hear the sound reflected back to you, that's going to amplify your experience even more, right? So basically, the more amplification you get, the more ability you have to kinesthetically, vibrationally experience your voice. But you already have the ability to kinesthetically or vibrationally experience your voice already. So what it actually is about tuning into subtler and subtler layers of your ability to attend to notice the quality of vibration through your tissues. And that means that you don't need more input. We need subtler attention. So I had a thought and it might have, but one way to practice this is to attend, is to do these gentle exercises and to allow yourself to, yes, the thought came back, to really get used to what your voice feels like when it's free. Our voice travels up and out. This is actually something I talk about a lot in class, and we are meant to be giving it away. So we don't need to trap it for ourselves to feel it stronger, for it to be stronger. A lot of times it can just come up and out, and we can feel enough vibration and know that we're doing enough. Does that make sense? Cool. I think that's my answer to that one. I'm going to actually have a Sambucus drop while I continue talking. Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to another question. This one is from Judy. She says, as she's gotten older, I now have awful vocal tension and an out of control vibrato. Do you think class will help with that?
Yeah, Judy, I do. For those that don't know what vibrato is, hold on. Oh, you guys ready for, okay, behind the scenes, ready? Here's one way to, if the mucus is really building up. That's helpful. Okay, so Judy, vibrato. I wanted to actually have my full voice to be able to demonstrate it. So vibrato is, this is a straight tone when you're singing, ah, and then here's vibrato, ah, right? So vibrato is, it's actually not super well understood, and it's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. Like certain styles prefer it or don't. But if your vibrato is going out of control, basically the vibrato is, it's creating a variation in the like engagement and length of the vocal folds that's creating that sound for you. So basically there's like a variation happening that you're not in control of, that some SLPs might actually call, I believe it's either jitter or shimmer. I forget which one is the volume and which one is the loudness. It's kind of both. So yeah, so basically I'm going to actually kind of say something very similar to what I said to Mark, which is when we attend to the tissues, when we pay attention and start to reintegrate our connection to what's happening physically with the tension, neurologically, yes, we can start to get more in control of these things. Just realized I never plugged my microphone back in. I'm going to do that. Thanks, Delaney. Jitter is the pitch variation and shimmer is the loudness. Thank you. I couldn't remember which was which. Thank you. Okay, another question, Susie.
Yeah, this one comes from Leah.
Mm-hmm.
I've been diagnosed with MTD over a year ago and treated, but still cannot talk without pain. Will
Oh,
this class help a talker?
yeah. Mm-hmm. I am agnostic about whether you use your voice to speak or to sing. It's all the same voice. That's something that definitely took me a long time to realize. Something that happened for me in my early vocal training is that I thought I needed to use a different quality or style of my voice for singing, and then my speaking voice was totally different. But that's actually a version of dissociating from our voice, right? So we all have one voice, and something that I'm going to encourage all the non-singers in class to do is to do some sound healing gentle exercises, and Stephanie is the perfect person to help you with that. She's going to be with us on that day. And yes, if you have muscle tension dysphonia, if you're diagnosed with muscle tension dysphonia, that's essentially, without being a clinician, so I can't officially say that I treat that, but that is what this class is designed to help with. Mm-hmm.
Elissa, Josh wants to know your top 3 muscle releasing exercises.
Ooh, good question, Josh. It depends on the person, to be honest, because when we're in class, something that you guys are going to get to assess for yourselves, and also something that I can reflect and watch for you when we do feedback, is where do you hold the most tension? So if your pattern is I hold the most tension in my jaw and my tongue and my belly, then your 3 exercises might be different than someone who holds most of their tension in the side and back of their neck, right? But that being said, I will still answer your question, Josh. I won't skirt it. My top 3 exercises for tension release are, oh gosh, it really does change from day to day for me. Today, if I were doing some tension release right now, maybe I'll even do it and you guys can do it with me. First, I would work on the front of my neck right now. I would do some gentle, just like stroking along the strap muscles downwards, which is the first step of laryngeal massage. That's one of the things my body needs in this moment. The next thing I think I would do right now is some work on my shoulders, because I've been sitting here talking to you for a while and I realized that they're feeling kind of tight. And then the next thing I would do in this moment, now I'm feeling that the back of my neck wants to be released. So those are my top 3 in this moment, Josh. Great.
Okay, I have another question, and this one's about emotions and trauma. This comes from Jennifer. She said earlier on today you shared your lifetime of vocal memories and the emotions that linger and continue to cause tension.
Yeah.
It seems like addressing the emotional aspect of our vocal tension would be important. Do you cover that in the 20-week class?
Yes, for sure. So a lot of the work we're going to do, and if you guys want to do the homework before the first week of class right now, I'll give it to you. So the home play before the first week of class is to journal everything that you remember about when you started experiencing vocal issues and why you think they started to happen, so that you can start to untangle your story like my story. And then what we do is we continue journaling around these things. Yeah. I just happen to see this pop into the chat box right now, so I'll also piggyback on this with Tess. Can this class help if there is physical trauma from a car accident? Yeah, here's the thing. Every single one of us is going to have, I don't know if I said this explicitly, but every single one of us as human beings living on the planet, at the very least, we're going to have stubbed our toe at some point, which means everyone has experienced trauma. And we're all going to come into class with different stories and with different starting places. And here is the really, really important paradigm shift for me as a teacher. It's really important to me, and I share this from my heart also in collaboration with all the other teachers on the line. It's very important for me that I hold space in a way that wherever you're starting from, you can start from where you are. It's not about stepping into a class and being like, okay, Elissa's going to teach me everything I know to fix myself, and all I have to do is forget everything I've already been, and then I'm going to learn a bunch of exercises and I'm going to be better, right? we can only, that is a very, the way that the somatic world would say is that's a very non-trauma informed way of proceeding. If I just give you like answers and tell you exactly how things are going to be. Trauma informed teaching or psychology or whatever means that we start from where we are. We start from what's actually happened, and we're gentle with ourselves, and we rest with ourselves in the experiences that we've had thus far that have brought us to this moment. And we learn to reassociate with them so that we can move forward from where we are. So part of the reason I can teach this class online for lots of you is because this is work that actually, when the space is held for us in a certain way, we can do it for ourselves mostly. I also do want to connect you to the clinicians and people around you and fellow voice coaches who can help you further. But I know that I am best serving people when I hold a space where we can all show up as we are. Okay, stepping down off soapbox. Thank you.
Great. So this question is about overall health and the voice. Do you have diet and natural remedy recommendations for vocal healing and health?
Yeah, there's a whole day in class where we're going to talk a ton about that. I have a whole story I can tell you about. So the doctors put me on acid reflux medication right when I lost my voice. And I was on proton pump inhibitors, Prilosec, for 4 years. And then I went to go see Dr. Holly Lucille, who is the guest naturopath in our course, in order to wean myself off of those. And for me, it required a lot of healing of my gut, which is actually very common for a lot of us. The gut, certainly according to holistic medicine, is the keeper of our overall health. It's the center and core of us. So a lot of times we need to heal gut issues and digestive issues in order to actually heal our voice. Something that Dr. Gupta says in class is, if you think about it, it's all the same tube. The digestive tube and the voice tube are literally one tube that's just split in half. So of course, whatever is going on in the digestive tube is going to affect what's going on in the voice tube. So Susie, can you remind me what the original question is? I feel like I just totally went off.
Yes. So this was about natural remedies for vocal health and healing.
Yeah. And I'm all about natural remedies. The lozenge I'm sucking on right now, you guys, is it's Sambucus. It's all natural. It is not a Halls. I don't believe in that type of thing. Don't worry, you're signing up for class with a crunchy hippie. Yes, elderberry.
So we have a question here from other fellow voice teachers. They want to know if there's any information in class about how to help other people through their own trauma and voice issues.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. Anything you learn for yourself, you can. This is certainly my journey. Anything I've ever learned for myself allows me to turn around and hold better space as a teacher for others. There is nothing I will share with you, even on this call right now. You can scour the internet for all of my videos. There is nothing that I have shared publicly ever that I don't give you my complete and total blessing to turn around and use with your own students. That I think that's the nature of knowledge, is that it's meant to be passed on. So I really believe in that. So I do not currently offer a certification course for teachers or a specific course geared towards teachers. I love teaching teachers. And in my previous work with Vibrant Voice Technique, when I was specifically teaching the vibrator work, which is mixed into this class, I was certifying teachers, and I was actually teaching courses that were specifically for other teachers. I will do that work again someday, I'm sure, but I'm not doing it right now. So in the meantime, this is the offering on the table. It's an educational course that I wholly welcome anyone who wants to learn this for themselves and also to pass on to join into. What else?
Kajal has asked, can the course help with extending the life of my singing voice? I'm 58 years old. Does singing voice deteriorate with age?
So that's actually a question about, does your voice deteriorate with age? Right? Because like we said, the singing voice and the speaking voice are not so different from each other. They're the same vocal cords. So the things that happen as we age with our voice it's essentially the way any muscle atrophies is the way that your vocal cords are going to atrophy, although there's a little bit more to your vocal cords. So basically they're going to lose some of their strength, they're going to lose some of their elasticity, and then there are these protective coatings, protective and also kind of gelatinous coatings on the outside of your vocal cords, and those can lose their their ability to retain liquid a bit, and they can also pardon me, become less plump. So age is something that actually is accumulated, not necessarily through, it's not linear, like every single person ages in the same way, you know this. It's accumulated through stress. Like aging is a process that the body goes through based on how it's nourished. And so there are ways to nourish yourself, to drink more water, to eat healthier food, et cetera, that you know are going to support all of the cells of your body. And in the same way, there are definitely ways to support your voice, the vocal folds, your breathing apparatus, all the things that contribute to you having a voice. There are ways to support it that will allow you to reverse the process of stress, atrophy, and aging. So yes. Can you still enter your name for the scholarship? You can squeak in your name for the scholarship for another 2 minutes, and then we're going to call it. Is that true, Sherry? Can people speak in their name for the scholarship?
I think Sherry's picked a winner, and we'll be announcing it in just a minute.
Okay, we have already picked the winner. Sorry, I'm wrong.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, thank you. Let's do 2 more questions?
Sounds great. So this one's about acid reflux.
Okay.
What about damage from acid reflux? Can I recover from the damage it leaves behind?
Yeah, great question.
Also noted that I feel my throat closing whenever I hear loud sounds, and I don't like barking people and shouting.
Ooh, okay, 2 great questions in there. So basically the question I just answered about the aging and the atrophy, yes. So my belief about the body, and this is a very holistic belief, I've studied a fair amount of Ayurveda, which is Indian medicine. My belief is that all of the tissues of the body, given the right conditions, want to and will do their best to heal. That includes tissues in the throat that have been affected by acid that has come up from the stomach where it wasn't supposed to be. So yes, I believe you can heal yourself from acid reflux issues. The second part of the question, you're gonna have to remind me, Susie, my brain went fully into that part.
Sorry, it was about the loud sounds of retrieving into your voice.
Yeah, so when we have sympathetic responses to, like, let's say, I remember I used to like get vocally tired if I just listened to Whitney Houston. So when we have a sympathetic response where our voice is like clamping up in order to try to even mimic silently the thing that we're listening to, we can decouple our nervous system's propensity to do that. We can teach ourselves through kinesthetic awareness how to stay released even when we're hearing things that trigger us. So that's a process that as we attend to this area, we'll get better. Yeah. Okay. One more question.
Okay. This one's about class. Would it be permissible to directly contact you to see if this class is a good fit for me?
That's a perfect question to end with. Yes, that's basically what I was just going to say. If you guys are interested in the Release Your Voice class and studying all of this more deeply with me, first of all, yay. I would really, really love to share with you. I think you can probably tell at this point that I really love teaching and sharing about this. So yes, if we did not get to your question today, and especially if you have a question about whether this class is for you, then please do send us an email at info@voicebodyconnection.com, and Susie will field it because she's amazing. And then she'll send it to me and I'll take a look at it as well. So yeah, so send us your questions. Something I also wanted to say and just make clear is that there is an application process for the class just to make sure that it is a good fit for you. So like these questions that we've had about like stuttering, or if you have spasmodic dysphonia, or if you're concerned that maybe you should go see a clinician first, please put those questions, your concerns, into the application, and I will take a look at them to make sure that it's a right fit. So I'm not going to have you come study with me if I don't think it's the right idea either. I'll send you somewhere else. Okie doke. That's, I think, all we really have time for, but I'm going to turn things over to Sherry to announce the winner, unless Sherry texted me. No, Sherry, you're going to do it?
I can. Hi.
Yay, let's have you do it.
Drum roll, please.
Drum roll.
Tamsin de Blasio.
Yay, Tamsin! Welcome to class. I'm so excited to have you. Congratulations. Yay. Tamsin says yay. Yay.
Yay.
So Tamsin, send us an email. We will also send, well, I guess we'll send you an email. We have your email address.
We do.
Just like we said, to make sure that this is a good fit for you. But I'm going to guess that you entered yourself because you feel that it is. And for anyone else who did not get the scholarship, you can apply to class at voicebodyconnection.com/releaseyourvoice. And if you too feel that you could not access this class without a scholarship, which you guys may have noticed, the scholarships are not full. They are partial so that you can have skin in the game and really be committing to this. Then you can also apply for a scholarship, and we will be giving away a certain amount of partial scholarship slots, both economic scale and half tuition to the course. So with that, I think I have to step and curtsy and say thank you so, so much. I am so, so grateful you were here today with me. It means the world to me to share with you about this and to do the work that elevates our own individual voices so we can speak our truth and vibrate freely in the world and make an impact. And thank you. And I think I'll just go ahead and play us out with some more David Gray Babylon. Thanks, you guys. Thank you. Thank you.
And the shining sky is fading, red to blue. Fade from the moon. And if you want it, come and get it. Crying out loud. Loving our world, giving you up. Never end down. Let go of your heart, let go of your head.
Oh, where did I go? Okay. Bye, Ernie.
Let go of your heart.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so, so much. We'll send you the recording. Thank you.
Let go of your heart, let go of your head.
All right.